Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pokemon Masterclass. My guest today is a businessman, collector, PSA middleman, and an absolute wealth of knowledge in this hobby. Please welcome everyone, my fellow Arizonan, Z from ZandGEmporium. Z, how's it going, man?
Going well. It's been a busy few weeks being that PSA middleman and them raising their prices and whatnot. So it's been busy, but I'm glad to finally just settle down and talk some Pokemon.
And I am sure we're going to get knee deep into all of that. I'm sure everybody out there listening is very anxious to hear some of the changes that are coming down, what knowledge you are perhaps privy of from PSA and especially from Graded Gem. But yeah, most people out there, they know you obviously from your channel, from ZandGEmporium. You really started out talking a lot about your history with investing, collecting Pokemon cards, buying, selling over the years. But as I said, one of the things that I'm interested to dig in with you is more of that middleman capacity and more of the partnership that you formed with Graded Gem. So I think the best place to start is, how did this partnership with Graded Gem begin, and what gave you the impetus to take on this venture of being a middleman and really adding this to your already extensive repertoire?
Well, they reached. I can't remember. You know what? I can't really remember if I reached out first or they. I did. I If I reached out first, I definitely didn't reach out to them about starting a partnership. It might have been that we had just talked, before, because, you know, when you're doing YouTube and whatnot, and when you're, as you know, when you're buying and selling stuff, you get to learn, you know, everybody on YouTube, everybody who's not on YouTube, maybe like E4 and just, everything around it, and so it might have been that, we had been just talking normally, like I'll talk occasionally to like Gem and Pokemon, or I'll
Mm-hmm.
talk to occasionally TCA Gaming just by email. So it might have been something like that, but it came to a point, I think maybe I don't know, May or June, that they brought up this fact that they're looking to expand in the U.S. and they think I'd be a great partner with the knowledge I have, and I've already submitted thousands of cards myself, so I know the process there, as well as kind of the I hate to say brand, but just kind of the marketing that I can bring to kind of put the word out. So that was like, I want to say it was like May or something like that, and we opened in August because we had to iron out a lot of details and how it was going to work and whatnot, because it's a pretty big undertaking. And yeah, we started in August, and it's just, so we've been about what, 7 months, something like that. And it's been a great success. It's been a roller coaster ride, just because there was actually a lot more demand that anybody anticipated. Just not only did we really not anticipate it as much in the U.S. because we were new, to the space, but then all of a sudden there was this huge surge of just grading in general. So all of a sudden it was that kind of cascade. So it's been an interesting roller coaster ride. In December, in that 6 months we've closed twice. We closed December 10th because we wanted to get in everybody by January 1st. These PSA usually raise their prices every January 1st for the past, I want to say, like 4 years. They just January 1st price increase,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't. So we'd had just a crazy amount of stuff to get input by January 1st. We got it all in, and then it came, and there was nothing there. So then we closed again recently, as I just said at the beginning of the show, that we closed February 19th because we heard from management that they were switching. They were being, management was finally switching out to the new owners,
Mm-hmm.
and there were going to be changes probably within 2 weeks of then. And then I think there were other rumblings throughout the sports world, and it kind of got out the rumor that there were going to be price increases on March 1st. So, we were rushing to get everybody in the past week. There were like 2 nights that I didn't sleep all night. But that wasn't because I mean, it was because of, a lot to put in, but it was mainly because PSA's website was basically non-usable for like 5 days, 5 or 6 days at the end of February, just because literally everybody was logging onto the site to submit to get everything in. Uh, I mean, it basically didn't work from maybe 8 a.m. to, I want to say, like 11 p.m. every day. And then once it got to like midnight, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., I think the volume of people were kind of, people were sleeping. So, that's just what we had to do to get it all in. So it's been a fun ride. It's learned a lot. Seen a lot of cards come through. But with this price increase, haven't gotten the official pricing for what the U.S. Graded Gem will be. It will be a lot higher. I tell you what, it's not like they just didn't raise the dealer prices either. They definitely did big time. But yeah, it should be Graded Gem. The UK, they're not going to open until April 1st. Like, they're just shutting it down. They're also switching. They're also working on getting a system of getting out an email every single week to every single customer that says where your cards are in the line of either research and ID or grading or quality check or whatnot. So they're working on that. Also, they're moving offices, so they're doing a lot of things on that side too. So we're going to probably be opening, I would say, either Saturday or Monday. So not too far away, and we'll kind of be the guinea pig for the UK to see kind of what the demand is like now that the prices have increased. It'll be interesting. I know there are a lot of people that just say, well, I'm just gonna the biggest thing you hear is submit to CGC because they're cheaper. I looked at their website. I think they're like $9, I think, for their bulk for CGC. If you don't get subgrades, I think subgrades makes it $16 a card or something like that.
I believe so.
Yeah, so $16 a card is probably, pretty comparable to, if we're going to be charging probably a little less than 20, if I had to guess. I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty it's been a pretty interesting ride. Seeing tens of thousands of cards that have come through, and yeah, it'll be just an interesting thing to see that hey, will there be as many reverse common evolutions cards that'll come through? Will there be a lot of not mint WotC bulk cards that'll come through? Now that it's not PSA is charging 10, now it's 20. Not sure, but it'll be an interesting month to see in March to kind of see where that demand really lies, or if everybody's gonna, if it's just does PSA brand mean something, or is it just who's the cheapest? So are people going to go to CGC, and then if everybody really goes to CGC, then they're going to be backed up. They can't even imagine, and I'm sure their turnaround times will go way down or way up, however you want to see it, as well as, I'm sure I think they've already raised their prices a little bit, but yeah, it's just a whole weird dynamic roller coaster. It's a lot of fun because, if you're here for not a boring job, that's been it's been quite a ride. So yeah.
Well, it sounds like it's just been, it's been like drinking through a fire hose. Based upon, I've been watching you for a long time, long before I even started my channel. And it seemed like back then you were mainly buying and selling higher end products. So it was probably a little more infrequently because they are higher end. And now you're dealing with such massive quantities of product coming in and out of your household, really. So it's interesting to see that, and I can imagine that adjusting to that massive quantity, has been, I'm sure there's been a learning curve there. But what's interesting is that, you had mentioned it, of a lot of people moving over to CGC, possibly for the quicker turnaround times. Obviously, now you guys here at least here in the States, are going to be the guinea pig for we'll see what the demand is like now that we open up with the price increases. I'm interested to know, though, is there any plans? Does Graded Gem have any plans of perhaps branching out and maybe moving into a dealer capacity with other grading companies, Beckett, CGC, and maybe expanding their scope at some point?
I'm honestly, I'm not too sure. I know, Connor and Tom over at the UK, the founders of it. I know they have a ton on their plate, and they're always thinking of ways to improve the service, be it as the new tracking system, and they're moving offices and getting a whole lot of stuff out there. So I'm not too privy on that part, if that's part of the plan. But really at the end of the day, we want to grade people's cards. We want to satisfy the customers. So we'll the PSA has been obviously there's been an absolute just crap ton of demand, so people really like the service there. So I guess we're just going to have to see really what March brings. But as of right now, we're just doing PSA because we have a really good relationship with them, and
Mm-hmm.
have it with them there. But yeah, I'm not too sure. It'll just be very interesting. It's just been from the start. It's like, oh, we're probably only going to have a few submissions for August, and it was like just a crazy amount. It just kept ballooning. It was like, oh my, it was just crazy. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what this kind of you know new era will bring, for
Mm-hmm.
with these new price increases. I mean, price increases aren't new. I mean, like I said, they've increased it in October for
Mm-hmm.
the express one by like $5 a card, and that saw no slowdown in sending that service. So I know this the sports card market. I mean, they've just, I think what was it, the VP of like communications or something for PSA said that, I can't remember the number. It was like it went up 28% or something between November and December, and then December went up another 40 something percent, the amount of submissions. And then January went up another 20 or something percent, and February was even more. I mean, it just, the demand was just absolutely incredible. And we'll see what that brings. I'm sure, I mean, just basic econ 101, you have an unbelievable demand on the demand curve. It's going to push the price point is just going to rise.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see if maybe that'll mean that people will kind of slow down their submissions and not submit everything under the sun. It's
Mm-hmm.
not, it's like, oh, I open a pack of evolutions, I'm literally going to submit every card in the pack. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
they're only going to submit the rare, or maybe the versatile, or they don't submit one at all. I'm not sure. um, but hopefully that'll improve turnaround times, which will then get cards into people's hands faster, and will kind of produce the flow of business that'll, once again, if we're talking about people who are flipping product, having the faster turnaround times are going to get that into your hands quicker, to be able to sell it, to have that money in your hands, to be able to buy more stuff. And maybe those price increases really don't matter in the end, because you're getting the capital back to be able to put back into it and to buy
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just a weird, they had to do something. It was like, because I mean the demand wasn't going to stop, so it's like you either raise your price, you either shut down completely. I mean, they keep hiring people. Like, I think they said they hired in the past month or something like 70 people. I mean, they just keep just hiring people like crazy, and it just doesn't stop. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like you don't know what they're supposed to do. And I could see the other side of the coin. People say, okay, well, a new owner came in, this is just a cash grab, right? And it's like they just came in and they're gonna double the price and just rake in the profits. And I can see that side too. I can see that opinion too. But something had to happen for them to have to actually get your guys' cards back, everybody who's watching this who has submitted to PSA, they have to do something. And
Mm-hmm.
hiring hundreds of people and having doubling or tripling the capacity of the warehouses and whatnot, this cards still are just not coming back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just it's a crazy situation, and
Yeah.
we'll see how it plays out, in that aspect.
Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you what, I'm super thankful because I got my submission in right before you guys closed. It had to have been within a few days
Oh
of
yeah,
you
I
guys
did.
closing, and
I
so
do.
I
I
was.
remember. I remember submitting your. I remember it's actually shipped out. It's on its way. So yeah,
Well, good to know. Good to
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
But
It's
what's interesting there is one thing that I'd like to discuss is with the price increase at PSA, how is that trickling down to graded gem? How is that going to change just the regular grading service as well as the express grading service on the grading tiers?
uh, I'm still gonna have to discuss them with Tom and Connor what exactly our pricing is gonna be. I mean, I know I know they raised it, big time. They didn't keep it the same, dealer rate. And the dealer rate is a little less, obviously, than
Mm-hmm.
what they charge a customer, because it makes sense, because we'll turn 50 packages into literally one package, and 50 customers into one customer. They have to deal with customer service. So it makes total sense in there. And I mean, we're saving them so many man hours, by
Yeah.
using them. So, cutting it by a little bit on that one, really saves them. It's extremely valuable to them. But at the same time, they definitely increase it, accordingly, with the same amount that they went out there. So I don't really know the pricing yet, but hopefully, I would hope it's probably around, what we were doing before, where if you submit X amount of cards, maybe over 200, it'll still be cheaper, or maybe over 50, it'll still be cheaper to, use the service versus just sending it in, themselves. And then you don't have to pay return shipping or get a membership or whatnot. So it'll still be cheaper,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have to do any work. But at the same time, it's still going to be, way more expensive than it was before, which, that does suck. But it is what it is at this point. The demand was just too great. And
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, I would hope, maybe, well, I never hope that there's less business for Greater Gym. I hope there's just, a massive amount of business every month. But I would hope, if we get this temporary, if there is a, decrease in submissions, that people's stuff gets back in their hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the more cards that get out there in people's hands, you know, um, I always think about it from the business point of view, but I know there are people that just submit just to have it in their collections, right? They're not looking to sell. But the people, a lot of this Pokemon, prices increasing, and all this market that has formed in 2020, are a lot of investors and, flippers, and a lot of that, type of people who really, and that's how the market, can grow in that point. So when you get the cards back in those people's hands, well, they can sell it, use it, and kind of create a bigger market. So, if the submissions do subside, I just really hope that they can just pump out those returns and get it to those people's hands.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, definitely. And like you said, I mean, whatever happens, whether they come back quicker or whether they take longer, there's always two sides to the market. And, whether it takes longer or shorter, it's going to benefit one area of the market or the other, and for collectors, people that are just looking to have it into their collection, the turnaround times don't make a whole lot of difference if you plan on just keeping this, until you kick the bucket and you pass it on to your
Right.
kids. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing here, before we kind of jump in, because there's a lot of people who have been interested in this middleman service, and have been getting in. A good buddy of mine, Jules, is getting in with CGC. I've got another good friend, Omosh, both content creators. He works with CGC, Beckett, and PSA. And it seems like I'm getting more and more questions from people who are interested in, maybe pursuing this. But before we jump into that, the last thing that I'd like to touch on here is, if there was a way, I'm interested to get your opinion, if there was a way for PSA to expedite the process, if there was one strategy that you thought that they could employ or various strategies, what do you think that would be, outside of just increasing more graders? Do you think this is a situation where they can learn something from maybe CGC, where they use a combination of both algorithmic, computer-based grading and human grading? Do you think they expand their footprint? I'm interested to get your take here.
Yeah, I think I think advancing it with technology is always a good choice in you know, any field. Because you know, what you're really looking for is that on the one hand, they want to pump out returns. On the other hand, you want to be consistent, right? You don't want to just say, oh, people want their stuff. Let's just get it out quickly. I don't want it to be where the graders are rushing things, because really what you're looking for is consistency down at the
Mm-hmm.
very core, right? Because there are a ton we talk about PSA and Beckett and now CGC getting into it, but I mean there's a ton of grading services out there, that people that grade cards. um I don't know all of them, but I know there's SGC, and there's like HG something, CMA, or I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's like dozens and dozens, and a lot of them that have died, right?
Mm-hmm.
And ones that you might find on eBay, it's like all of a sudden it's like, what is that grading company? It's like a really old one that really wasn't good. I remember like BCCG, I think, was one that died that really didn't have
Mm-hmm.
good good standards in that one as well. So I think the thing that really you know will will kill a grading company is consistency. So if you can get something that you know advances technology wise, where it's like, oh, you put a card on there, it's like, oh, the centering is whatever, or you can put it onto like a photocopier that puts in the bag, it's like, oh, the edges. I'm sure there's stuff like that you can implement at that time. I'm sure that takes a lot of it's with I'm not sure if you've your jobs in the past, but if you've worked in like a big corporate world, it's I've worked in many large multi-billion-dollar companies, and just to get anything to move in a lot of those companies, it just takes, you have to go through so many chains and so many things have to get approved up and down the line.
Yeah, a lot of red tape.
um, oh yeah, and because there's a lot of procedures that have just been done forever. And I would love to know the inner workings of PSA, like how stuff is actually, it's pretty hush hush, how they
Mm-hmm.
actually, I'm not sure if there is anything like videos or how actually, I think there was some kind of video out there that showed a grader like measuring centering or something, but um hopefully, I would hope if there's this new management, maybe that brings in kind of a new focus on something like that with technology, because um, really to be more, to pump out more stuff. I mean, they've hired hundreds of people, they've increased the capacity of warehouses and footprints and what that, and you know there's still a massive amount of backlog there. So I think
Mm-hmm.
raising the prices will help that. But I think you're right. I think technology is definitely something that I'd be interested. I mean, that's the way the world's going, right? I mean, you're having
Mm-hmm.
self-driving cars and all this stuff that there should be something that can be really, almost all jobs will probably be automated one day, right?
For sure.
Um, so something that is literally assigning a grade to something that really is what, centering, edges, the corners. It's not that hard to conceive something like that happening in the future, right? So at the same time, I'm not too sure if there is, you know, if there's a something out there like an SOP that shows exactly how fast they are at it. Like, does it say, oh, one grader grades it in 30 seconds or 10 seconds? I'm not sure if anything out there really gives
Mm-hmm.
a definitive answer on how quickly that is versus someone who has to take out an individual card and put it under there and type in whatever and make sure it's there. I'm not sure what the time saving is of that, but um, I'm sure there. I'm sure they're working. I'm sure they are smarter than we are because they've been doing it for so long. But yeah, I mean, what do you think? What do you think your opinion is on what they need to do versus just hiring more people and you know raising the prices to cut possibly more submissions to kind of get caught up?
Hmm. I mean, I think that'll only get them so far, right? I mean, I think it's more or less a ploy to just try to get a little bit ahead at this point, especially when they're going through a transition of being a publicly held company to a privately held one, moving to new management. I think the price increase, hiring more people, I think it's just a way of trying to mitigate some of the submissions that are coming in and try to get more of the backlog out there. In the long run, I think it's, as you said, it's inevitable that they're going to have to incorporate some kind of technology in there because I can foresee at some point that grading companies will be viewed less for the premium that they garner like they do now. You know, from a raw or ungraded card to a graded card, the premium, it can be astronomically different and vary
Yeah.
in price. I think in the future, there'll be less of an emphasis on that, and it will be more placed upon the pure encapsulation, authentication, and consistency, as we said. So if
Mhm.
they do go to more of a computer-based system, you know, like we talked about before with you, me, and Jake in the roundtable, if, in my opinion, you have that, you run a card through, it doesn't matter what it is, you run it through 10,000 times, it will come through in the exact same grade every single time. Whether you're
Mhm.
using maybe AI or some type of algorithm, it will have that the utmost consistency. And really at that point, it'll be spread across all grading companies. As long as they have, you know, the financial means to incorporate this kind of technology, which as you know, technology has an exponential growth and it becomes cheaper and cheaper as time goes on. So at some
Mhm.
point, pretty much every grading company will be able to incorporate something like this. So they'll all have that consistency. And I think at that point, really beyond just the consistency, beyond the you know, the encapsulation, the authentication, I think that they will differentiate themselves by having more of an aesthetic appeal to their slabs. You know, Jake had mentioned it last time and it kind of rung a bell with me in that you're, you know, looking at cards. He was looking at cards. Maybe we'll get to a point where we're looking at cards more from their artistic appeal. I think that's the terminology he used. And maybe we'll kind of, that'll fall over into the grading world as well, where it's like, you know what, I want to get my, it doesn't matter who I get my card graded with, you know, maybe the prices are fairly equivalent. I want to get it graded with PSA because they've got the nicest case, or Beckett or CGC because we really like the aesthetic appeal of the case. I want to have my card authenticated with somebody that you know, has a better appeal to the eye when it comes to the slab. So,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. I can see that happen. I can see it being like marketing wise too, like because I mean really I mean think of it like you know, the inside of a cell phone or a computer. They're really I think mostly using the same, you know, guts, the same
mm-hmm,
RAM, hard drive, you know, it's really basically the same thing, but it's like, oh, I use an Apple because I like the way it's marketed and the way it's, you know, that way versus,
mm-hmm,
you know, a Windows machine, you know, and it might be kind of like that where they really become pretty similar if they both use, you know, technology and AI where it's just like a 10's a 10, right? There's no weak 10, there's no strong 9, you know, there's
mm-hmm,
no oh, I got this PSA 9 and there's a and there might be a dent in it or oh, I just got this CGC 9.5 but there's this, you know, decent amount of whitening at the top, you know. There's none of that. And I can see that happening definitely in the future. Don't know how far I'll be in the future. I mean, it's crazy the amount of technology change we've had. I mean, the internet was just what 20 years ago. I mean, not that
yeah,
long ago. I mean,
yeah,
well, internet for consumers, you know, like late
mm-hmm,
1990s. But I mean, it's crazy the amount of you know technology you know changes, and I can definitely see it you know affecting you know everybody you know in the grading space in the future. It'd be interesting to see if you're right because then it's like oh I got this PSA card from you know 20 2021, it's like, oh well, that was human grading. That's
Hmm.
garbage, or something
Hmm.
like that. I don't know how that'll play out.
Well, interestingly enough, I feel like we're seeing that right now. I mean, there is a certain appeal. There's a certain, I mean, there's a vocabulary tied around PSA and the connotation behind it. It's in the common tongue of the hobby of what's that in a PSA 9.
Right.
What does that go for in PSA? So it's already ingrained into the hobby where it's really set itself apart. I think that's one of the big reasons why PSA is the gold standard, because it has been around for a long time. It's been, the poster child for the hobby, and it has that subjective nature to it. So I
Yeah.
think we are seeing that already, but it'll be interesting to see where it goes from there.
But it's interesting that like Magic really likes using Beckett. I always found that interesting how they
Hmm.
people in that sphere is really a lot of the high end stuff are in Beckett cases, which is kind of interesting how they kind of grasp to that grading
Hmm.
company.
Yeah,
Who knows
yeah.
how? I think PSA I think it was really Gary the Charizard king Pawn
Hmm.
Stars Gary who really pushed PSA at the beginning with Pokemon. He was really pushing it there and getting them to accept certain cards and put it in the registry and start that stuff. So it really can only take it really can take one person to really solidify what grading company. And that's like what you said. If it becomes just AI or computers, it really could just be what celebrities or what influencers are tied to
Hmm.
a certain company that will really break it apart. So
Hmm. The other thing that I've been noticing recently, and I'm interested to get your opinion on this, is kind of this wave of CGC cards. And what I have noticed is, one, CGC seems to be a lot more stringent with their grading compared to PSA, and I think a lot of it is based around the whatever algorithm or whatever computer based programs that they're using. It does seem like it is very, very difficult to get even a near mint 8, 8.5, but especially gem mint 9 or higher in CGC. And I've actually recommended this to a lot of people of, if you're looking for a long-term value from cards, there's a lot more CGC cards coming out on the market, and many of those that are coming back in an 8.5 or a 9 probably have a very high likelihood of being regraded as a PSA 10. So now we're kind of starting to see this wave of CGC that is kind of becoming a proxy for regrades with PSA. Do you think that at some point that maybe because people start to see that more stringent nature of CGC, if something doesn't change with PSA, that they may become the new gold standard as more people start to realize that?
well, I haven't. I'll have to watch some YouTube videos. I haven't really seen that on CGC, the toughness. I've been so swamped with submitting all these cards that I haven't seen that. So I'll have to do some research on that and see that. To say, in my opinion, to say stuff can cross over to PSA 10, that's hard for me to swallow, just because I know how difficult it is to get a PSA 10. Now, if you're talking like, I'm not sure what cards you're talking about. I mean, if you're talking about like Wizards of the Coast Hollows, I mean, those are just, especially now. I'm of the opinion, and I know there are people that say both ways, but that older certs definitely were graded less stringently, less strict, versus
Hmm.
stuff that's like four, five certs now, the 50 millions or whatever they are.
Hmm.
Just because I used to send in thousands and thousands of cars, and it was like it wasn't that difficult to get. I mean, it was difficult, but it really you expected a decent amount to come back as PSA 10. When you're buying
Hmm.
these collections. Um, and now if I send in mint cards, it's like I hope I get 110. Out of all this.
Hmm.
If I get two, I'm like jumping up and down. So I think it's I'd have to see more, data on that and actually see people, cross over, break it out of
Hmm.
case or whatnot and submit it to PSA to see kind of what happens there. But yeah, it is interesting. We've always heard, grade, pick by the card and not the actual grade, right?
Hmm.
Which kind of at the same time defeats the purpose of having it graded, right? It's like, well, hold on, weren't these professional graders grading it? So shouldn't I buy the grade? It's all just a very strange industry, that we find ourselves in. It's
It
like
is.
anybody from the outside who looks into it, it's like, well, that's a PSA 9, right? Or a Beckett 9.5 or whatever. And it's like, well, so I'm not supposed to look at that. I'm supposed to actually kind of grade it myself on the back and the front. And it's hard to do because, as you know, unless you're holding a raw card in your hand at an angle, it's tough to tell. You can't, even if it has a whole lot of angles of pictures on eBay, you still can't really tell,
Hmm.
unless it's in your hand and seeing it, if there's any hollow scratches, if there's any, micro, edge wear on there, if there's any surface stuff. So it's all just a strange industry that we're in. And it's crazy that it's blown up so much. And not just this, but I mean, sports is just insane, the amount that's just going through there. And I don't know how long this goes, because I mean, they've been, we've all been great. I mean, I've been getting back into Pokemon in like 2017, and I've been grading since then. But it
Hmm.
was never to this level where it was like, you could send in bulk and get it back in 2 months.
Oh
And it was
yeah.
like, oh, where's my stuff? It's like after a month, it's like checking the website every day. It's like, where's my stuff?
Yep, I can remember
Uh,
that.
yeah. So now it's like, oh well, I guess I'll wait a year and hope it comes back then. But it's just a strange time, and I it's going to be really interesting how all this plays out. Especially all these. I'm not too worried about the cards that are, like hollow Watsy stuff, or PSA 10 of modern even is, you know probably okay depending on what the actual card is. But all these cards that are being graded, like I mean, it's not just Pokemon too. It's like sports. Like every base card is being graded. It doesn't matter if you're,
Hmm.
parallel or a prism or a refractor. They're just grading everything, over there. And the same thing, we can see that in Pokemon too. So yeah, as for grading between the two, I'd really be interested to see some, case studies on that. Granted, you'd have to have a large sample size to see that
Hmm.
too. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be very interesting. That's all I can say.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of this, admittedly is anecdotal because I will also be interested to see, as more of these start to come back, as more perhaps become cross graded, what it all shakes out to be, because
Yeah,
we can actually derive a lot of good data there, and people can get a good understanding through those cross grades or regrades of exactly what the stringency is like between the two companies. And I think in the end it really all boils down to what we've been talking about here. The main theme is consistency. I think that is the concern for most people in determining, who should I go with for my grading company. It's who can I get the most consistent grades back with. Now, you know, admittedly also there's a lot of people out there who are just like, who can I send it to that's going to give me the highest grade? And that's not always going to get you the highest premium either, because you might be able to go through, maybe a lesser known company where, maybe certain sets, certain eras, do grade higher. But, a lot of the time, if you're not hitting with the big three, PSA, Beckett, or CGC, that overall value is just simply not going to be there. So it will be
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. I agree. And yeah, I mean, honestly, the people I've heard who are, saying their card is CGC, I mean, all of them to me they're sending them because they're faster.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if PSA and CGC were the exact turnaround times. Well, now PSA is doubling the prices, so that throws the whole thing into it. But when they were, comparable in prices, people were saying CGC because they were faster. I mean,
Hmm.
and that was I'm not sure if it's like, well, they're grading tougher or easier or whatnot. People just want their cards back so they can. And a lot of people I talk to are people who are businesses or flippers, and they need the inventory going in and out, in
Right.
and out.
Right.
Um, so that's really what I've heard. So it'll be interesting to see if PSA raises their prices and they get their backlog out, and CGC gets this wave of people who want just stuff quicker or cheaper if their backlog goes down. It's it's all very it's all very fascinating to see how this whole the market will kind of fall in, like 5 years down the line. 5 years is an eternity in today's market.
Oh
Maybe
yeah.
a year down the line, see how I mean, 5 years ago, I mean, I wasn't even doing Pokemon 5 years ago, right?
Hmm.
That was 2016. That was Evolutions, right?
Yeah.
That was Pokemon Go time. Yeah, that was a different era. So
Yeah. I was
great.
just getting into it around that time. If you would have asked me at that time what PSA was, would have thought it was some kind of I don't know, acronym for something
Yeah,
else.
yeah, right.
So
Yeah,
it
me
is
either.
amazing. And that's really how it is. Even then and now, it's you're just constantly drinking through a fire hose, trying to learn as much as you can because the market is just changing so quickly. And I feel sorry for people who are just getting into the hobby now because it can seem absolutely overwhelming. The amount of information that has always been there and then trying to keep up with current market conditions is almost overwhelming.
Yeah, it's crazy, all the modern sets, how many they're just pumping out all the time. Seems like every few weeks there's like another thing that's coming out, right?
Mhm.
It was like we just got our a few Shining Fates that we opened, and the others, what, Battle Styles, I think. Next, that's like a
Mhm.
couple weeks away, and there's always a new Japanese set that comes out. So it's just crazy, the amount of volume that's going on. Of course, at the same time, I opened on my channel like a month or two ago, opened Neo Genesis, and I did some research in like the year 2000 because that's when it came out. And it's crazy to think that actually in the year 2000, I think it was uh, Team Rocket base set 2, Gym Heroes, Gym Challenge, and Neo Genesis came out into the year 2000.
Wow.
That's crazy. All
Yeah.
all all five of those came out.
Mhm.
So maybe it's always been this way. It just seems like there's a whole lot of product coming through, but that's five English big booster box set that came out that
Mhm.
year. But
I think the difference that we see now compared to back then is maybe we have the same amount of, or relatively the same amount of sets released per year, but the amount of products that are actually released around that particular set seems to be a lot more now. Whereas, back in the day, you had your booster box, your theme deck,
right,
and that was it. That was pretty much it. Maybe the blister packs that would
right,
come out
yeah,
every now and then. But now, I mean, it's pin collection boxes. You've got the V battle
right.
decks, used to be the theme decks, the tins. I mean, it just seems like
The
there's just more and
ETBs,
more.
yeah,
ETBs, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
That's true. Yeah, there's definitely a lot more, and there's so much to there's just so much out there, and demand is just crazy. It's still just none of these stores can get anything, and their scalpels are out there, and everything's you know 2 or 3 times whatever it's sold for from the distributor. But yeah,
Hmm.
I don't know.
I'm interested to hear, when do you think this all kind of normalizes itself? At what point do you think that we go back to some semblance of, I don't know, say early 2019, mid 2019?
Well, I don't think it's a coincidence that the whole world shut down in like March of 2019, and all of a sudden sports cards blew up, and Pokemon blew up, and all
Mm-hmm.
these collectibles blew up. I think I just heard that it could be like everybody in America has a could have a vaccine by like May or April or
Mm-hmm.
May. It's only a
Yeah.
couple months away. And then what happens when everybody returns to normal? Everybody's spending their money on travel, or going out to bars or restaurants or movie theaters, and just spending their money, instead of you know some a few $5 to $10 Pokemon packs that they're finding at Target or whatnot. They're spending it on all this other stuff that's not related.
Hmm.
I'm thinking that's going to be something that's going to it has to cool off a little bit, because there's not 100% stickiness with this collectible, which is like consumer, that all of a sudden there's a wave of people that wants to bring it to the hobby. Once everybody throws their mud on the wall, not every piece of mud sticks. So there'll be definitely, I think, in my opinion, some people that'll just fall off and go outside and oh, I want to spend $100 going to, I don't know, an NBA game, and
Hmm.
eat whatever the outrageous concessions that you pay at the concession stand, and the $25 parking, and then I go afterwards to a bar after the game and spend $50 on food and drink. That's hundreds
Hmm.
of dollars, and that's what a lot of people, you know they spend a ton of money on entertainment. And I mean, that's what really we saw PokéRev explode during this time. I mean, he was entertainment, right? He was
Hmm.
people spending money instead of on tickets or travel, or for stuff, going on vacations, disposable income, where to be entertaining. They spend it on these collectibles. And some people have spent it on collectibles and made a lot of money because it went up at the same time, because there were a lot of people that came into it. But I would say it's be a very interesting when the vaccines come out and herd immunity or whatever, and it could be in the next couple months, to really see what happens when the whole kind of world goes back to a normalization of all these events, and everything, like conventions, and like Pokemon Worlds, I think, was canceled. Like things like that. People
Hmm.
spend their money to airfare and hotels and spending all the food and everything. That's a lot of money. And people aren't good at budgeting. So if people actually saw what they spent, if they made a budget and saw what they spent on all this, entertainment and food and stuff, it's a lot of
Hmm.
money. So I think it'll be very interesting after maybe 2 or 3 months, if it really does go back to normal, see what the market, the kind of reaction is to it.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, and I think also, what is the reaction going to be when there's not continual stimulus being pumped into the economy as well? Because now you've got kind of these cofactors working together, where you've got people spending less money on the things that they used to, and at the same time there's more money being pumped in and being put into their pockets. I mean, it's crazy statistics from 2020, the amount of people that actually earned more last year by being on things like unemployment, or getting unemployment checks, or stimulus checks rather. What happens when that all goes away? And they
Right.
don't have that extra spending and
And
disposable
you're right.
income.
And you're right. And the big thing with that stimulus too is that probably people have a different mindset than they did during every other time that unemployment rates happen like that. Because, you know, a lot of times when you have this stimulus and people that are, there's a lot of unemployment and stuff like that, is that people don't know when it's going to end, right? You had that feel, right? You had
Mm-hmm.
that feeling in 2008, 2009. It's like, is this ever going to end, right? You had that feeling in the 2001, right? It's like, oh, it's just
Mm-hmm.
a crash. It's, you had that feeling of kind of dread. It's like, wow, could we ever get out of this? Is there a total financial meltdown and everybody's going to be unemployed forever? Versus this, like everybody knew, hey, there's going to be a vaccine one day, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to return to normal. It's just a matter of, is it 6 months from now? Is it a year? And it's getting close to that point. So people that might have gotten stimulus money, right, or might have, gotten, unemployment money or whatnot before, you might have just hoarded that money or spent it on, probably what you should, like food or rent or whatnot. Whereas this is just a totally different animal, where
Mm-hmm.
you might be getting more money. It's like, well, it's going to end soon. So, I don't care. I'm not going to spend it on this stuff because I'll just spend it on some disposable income just to, have some fun. That's also, it's just a completely different, it's something that nobody could have predicted. And um, it's just very interesting to see it'll be interesting to see if any like business school goes into a case study of, collectible market or any kind of,
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about on the roundtable just how everything has got real estate, stock market, crypto, collectibles, food, gas. I mean, everything is just
Mm-hmm.
sky high. So yeah, crazy times.
to, to say that, I think that sums it up very, very well. Crazy, crazy times. But before we wrap up here, Z, what I would like to jump into here real quick is, as I said, during this time, we've learned that, prices have been crazy. There's been a lot of uncertainty. But I think a lot of people have also learned that there is viable business ventures that they can actually pursue within the Pokemon sphere. And one of them is, being a middleman or middle lady, if you want to be politically correct. But what advice would you give to somebody that is, maybe considering pursuing being a middleman, whether it's with PSA, with Beckett, CGC? What are some things that you've learned throughout your venture in these last 6 months or so?
Um, well, I would say what I've learned is that there's a lot of customer service that goes along with it. My wife Lauren does a great job with that. It's just because people want to know if you got their cards, if it's entered, did you ship it out, when do you expect to get it returned, and then obviously when you get a return, talk to them about return shipping. It's a lot of back and forth customers because it's like, when should I pay or what? There's just a whole lot of dealing with customers because a lot of these people, this is a lot of money to because they probably spend it on the collection, so they want to get it graded, and either they're kind of a business or a flipper where they put a lot of capital into it, so they're kind of like urgently want it back or whatnot, or it's someone who are sending you their personal collection that they just want to get encapsulated, graded, and it's like their baby, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's very important to them. Sometimes you got to walk, hold their hand and walk it through the process. So that's definitely a big part of it. Number two, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work entering in every single line item of every card, making sure they're all accurate. Just the process of collecting all the packages, opening them, because not everybody, the good thing that we do, saying it to PSA, is that they get they get all the boxes exactly how they want it, put it into exact order and marked who's who, versus they might get it, somebody sends it a top loader, someone sends it with taped, someone sends it with team bags, or not even in top loaders, in tins, or there's just so many different ways people package stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you just got to deal with a whole lot of different ways of people sending you the packages. And just my biggest thing would be, it's been a lot of work but a lot of fun, because it's going to be fun when I actually start, and I'm hoping very soon, start to get back submissions. And I think that'll be the real joy, right? Because people actually
Mm-hmm.
getting their cards, and who knows what they get. It's like, oh, I got a PSA 10, I had no idea. Or, I, the thing about this big delay in turnaround times too, is that, number one, I mean, I know there are people that just kind of ship it and forget it, right? They don't even need customer service, just ship it and forget it. It's kind of like a Christmas present, right? I mean, they said it, it's like, oh, that's coming back, great. I almost even forgot about it, right? And you get that. And then or there are the people that they sent it in, and they've been tracking it the whole time, and you can finally get it to them. I think that's going to be the real joy that comes from it, because there's good with helping people get in their cars, and they don't have to enter in anything, but I think the real joy is going to be returning stuff. So I'm really hopeful very soon we start to get those back. I know now PSA has a complete through date, I believe it's called a CTD, that they don't have estimated turnaround times anymore. It's basically from the last people that they shipped out or completed the order. So I'm going to be tracking that hopefully soon, now that I'm going to have a little bit more time before we open back up, and maybe kind of see where the earliest ones we sent off are in that process, and hopefully get those out soon.
So do you plan on doing some return videos as those cards start to trickle back in?
I think I will. Yeah. I was thinking about doing maybe some top videos, like saying, oh, here are my top choices from people that, are, having returns, instead of, because there are people that send in, 100 ancient news, right? Or, a whole lot of, maybe, modern cards that aren't even, like full arts, they're just kind of regular cards that people liked the art or whatnot, just to go through all those. I mean, I used to do submission videos. It took so long, and I'd rather spend that time in submitting. But yeah, I think I'll definitely will, at least at the start, just to kind of get the juices flowing and show people some cards. But it'll be, I'm hoping very soon, especially if they did increase the prices and it does slow down submissions. I'm hoping that they can pump those out.
Well, I think that'd be great. Not only does it, create a little bit of excitement for people who've been waiting a long time to get their cards back, but, it also provides you with some content, for your channel as well. So I think that'd be fun.
I have no idea what to do. With my channel. I'm just floating out the window over here. So I really stopped December 10th, or like early December, because we had to get it in by January 1st. We closed the gym, and I was just, drinking Red Bulls at midnight, trying to get through everything. And I just kind of shut down for like a month. And when I came back, it was like, okay, so should I do, because a lot of the content was investment videos, what to invest in. And I think a lot of people, there are people that are doing it well, like you, there are people that are doing it well out there. I was like, I just, I think I'm just going to have some fun on this channel. And we've been doing some pack openings and been doing a podcast with my wife. But, I'm, at the same time, all of a sudden it's like, oh, we need to close again because we need to get everybody in. So it's always just something with Greater Gym pulling me to complete that. So I don't know. You're doing YouTube and you're doing it. I can tell that you're putting a lot of effort into it. Your thumbnails and your, editing. I know how much time it takes to edit and the thumbnail and, actually think of topics to do on stuff. But I'm still thinking about the direction,
Well, I know whatever you decide to do, man, you like it. It will be good. Like I've truly enjoyed your content since you started, and like I said, I was watching you before I ever started my channel as well, and it was actually one of the influences that finally kind of pushed me over the edge to start creating content, because I didn't think, I'm sure just as you did, that anybody would want to watch people talking about financial aspects of Pokemon. You can understand the Leonharts and the Real Breaking Nates and, even the PokéRevs out there, but, we don't have all the glitz and the glam and the, fireworks going off. But I've really appreciated your content and, the knowledge that you share with the community. So I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see where you go. But as you said, I know what it's like when you've got a lot of other business ventures going on at the same time. It can be difficult to try to balance everything out.
Yep. And a baby, right? You have a baby too. Yeah, it takes.
I got another one on the way too here in about 4 months.
Oh boy, you're asking for. Yeah, that's a.
Yep, I'm a glutton for punishment.
Yeah, there are a lot of people. There are a lot of people in the Pokemon world who are doing stuff, and they don't. It's It's like, yeah, wait till you have a kid. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of work. You can't just have her crawling around on the floor while you record a video.
Nope. Nope.
It's not really how it works.
Nope.
But
And that's why you end up recording a podcast at about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at
yeah,
night when everybody's asleep.
I know when you suggest that time, I'm like, I know why I did that. I know
Mm-hmm.
exactly why. Yeah.
And I knew you'd be okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, hey, Z, I really, really appreciate your time, man. Truly. I'm sure people out there that are listening or watching this video are probably familiar with you. But for anyone that is not, where can they find you, your own personal content? And if they are interested in going through Graded Gem and going specifically through you, where can they find that information as well?
Yeah, they can go to us.gradedgem.com, or I think just gradedgem.com, and they'll redirect you on whatever country you're in for Graded Gem. And then I have ZandGEmporium for YouTube. And really, I put a lot of more content on Z's flips right now, which I actually just started a challenge because I get this question all the time. It's like, oh, I have $100 or $500, or I have no dollars, and what should I buy and start flipping stuff? And basically the last video I just put up, it's like I just have you see I have all this we're parents now.
There you go.
Here's
Oh yeah.
maybe battled nipples and stuff
Mm-hmm.
that I need to sell. I'm just gonna list this stuff. I'm gonna sell just stuff around the house, and I'm gonna take that money and we're just gonna start flipping, and we're gonna see how far we can go, because I did that at the first. I didn't really show the whole process. I wish I would have started ZandGEmporium at the very beginning in like 2017 and just kind of showed people the entire process, because they see it's like, oh, you bought a $10,000 collection. It's like, well, I don't have $10,000. It's like, well, I started with $500. There's just a whole lot of back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So I'm starting with 0 on Z's flips, and we're going to see how far we can go with just stuff around the house that we saw on eBay, random crap that everybody has, random crap in their house. And we're going to see where that goes. So that's exciting on that one.
So you heard it here first, guys. Z is going to start off with nipples for baby bottles, and he's going to end up with a first edition base set Charizard PSA 10. You heard it here.
Well, yeah, I mean, I started with 500 and got a first edition base set box out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I did that in a few years. Let's see where this goes, but at least it'll all be documented. So if anybody asks that question again, oh, how do I get started? I'm just going to be like, go to this whole playlist. Okay.
Go to CVS, get your baby bottles.
Yeah.
That's where you start.
Yeah. Yeah. Have your wife buy a whole lot of these that then you don't use, and then you can
exactly.
Then you can sell them. But, yeah.
Well, again, my man, I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for continuing to be a pillar of this community and for everyone out there. So, all right, guys. I think that is going to do it for this episode. We will see you all next time right here on the Pokemon Masterclass. Take care, everybody.